7th, 2024. We're going to open up this evening with a public hearing about the budget. So I'll repeat myself. Hey, Maureen. So we're opening up this evening with a public hearing about the budget. So if anybody would like to comment about the budget, specifically about the budget, feel free to sign in. And if there is anybody, we can step to the lectern and we'll listen.
Your name and where you live.
Yes. I think when they write it down, yes. Okay, sure. Good evening. So just the ground rules, your name, address, and please respect the 3-minute limit. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Please.
I'd like to thank the superintendent, admin, staff, and board for putting together this budget. It's one that I support. I'm impressed with the way the balancing act done so that no services are cut despite the constraints and headwinds that we're all facing. So I'll be voting for it on May 21st, and I encourage everyone in the town to vote for it as well. I don't think we're going to get a better one. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was so nice. I know.
Okay, anybody else that would like to comment at this time on the budget?
Yeah, I can't, I'm not going to walk, but I just want to ask about the parent cutting of a half position in music.
You have to, can we bring the mic to you?
Can we bring the, is it, can we bring the mic?
I don't know if he has to.
Can we repeat the question?
Yeah, just repeat the
So-
question.
So the question,
That they're possibly cutting a half position in music?
so the question is about the possibility of a half position being cut in music. All right. Normally, public hearing is for public comment, so we don't usually fill it like answer. And this is a topic that we covered a couple of meetings ago. Do we?
Well, we can provide maybe the Q&A.
Yeah,
Okay.
So if I may, in very good question that the board had been asked quite repeatedly by a number of residents and also students and other members of the community, particularly some families very, very focused on music. We did a very detailed FAQ, frequently asked questions, taking each of the questions we've been asked, putting the answers in writing, including very much a detailed question about would there be any impact on the offerings this year relative to the next year? And you'll see in there the short answer is no. The exact same offerings, opportunities for the students this year will be provided next year. If there's a problem, the commitment in there from the superintendent, that would be me, is that we would evaluate that very closely and carefully because we don't want to shortchange any of our students in regards to their music offerings. So, but we're going a little longer now, but really in spirit of the question of the moment, go to the FAQ. It's up on the web page. It says FAQ. There are 2 FAQs, one more general and one very much focused on music. There are probably 13, 14 questions for music alone with detailed answers. If you don't get the answer you want, please follow up with me directly. I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to comment this time on the budget? No? Okay. Thank you both. All right, moving on. Are there any announcements that you'd like to, this is quite a long list. Is there any announcements you want to pull out or highlight?
I would just highlight that they're there on the record, and usually people read better than I talk and speak, so I would just urge you to look at those. I would flag that we are in a very active testing time from APs and others. This is a key moment in that regard. Plus, the announcements are some important events, evenings for a range of performances and all the rest. And May 21st, very, very important, is the school budget vote and school board election. And I really hope, as someone myself deeply committed to a democracy, that you take that full right to get out and vote for both the budget and the trustees.
Thank you. All righty. Now, I remember this was a lot of fun last year, so we're going to move on to the presentation, science research projects. You have 5 seniors with you, right?
I think there's maybe just 4.
Oh, 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, gotcha, gotcha. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
So I'm going to start off, but thank you so much for inviting us tonight. I'm Melissa Shandroff. I'm the science research teacher and department chairperson, grades 6 through 12 here at Hastings High School. And I spoke to Dr. McCursey the other day, and he asked me to just kind of repeat what I did last year, just to bring everyone up to speed a little bit about the science research class, and then I'll have my students present their work. So just to give a little bit of a history, we began this course in 2007. I proposed it after completing a 2-year research program for science teachers at Columbia University, where I did 2 years of genetics research in the summers. And they wanted us to bring something back to the schools, and I asked if I could bring authentic science research here to Hastings High School. So I started it then. In the second year of the program, one of my students, Nidian Nair, placed 3rd in the nation in the Siemens competition at that time, and he won a $40,000 scholarship. And it just opened my eyes that I did not realize that this was a whole community of science research programs and competitions throughout Westchester County. And so then I started integrating that into my program as well. Currently, it is a 2-year course for juniors and seniors. The numbers have steadily been increasing. I started with 4 students in 2007. My current junior class is the largest. There's 38 students in my junior class. And the students applying as sophomores who are taking the course next year, there's around 31 students. So that's my largest cohort ever. I'm losing my 26 seniors this year. So that's kind of the progression of numbers. In junior year, I teach the students how to read peer-reviewed journal articles. They read a bunch of peer-reviewed journal articles to learn more about their topics. They find mentors. And one of the benefits of COVID, if you will, was that the whole world opened up. And my students have been finding mentors all over the world. And one of my students just found a mentor in Brazil. So he'll be working with someone in Brazil. And we prepare for and begin to work on the projects. Much of the research does occur, however, in the summer between junior and senior years. Students are in labs, in the field, at home, doing data crunching, so a variety of places that the students are. And then ending junior year, the students participate in, it's called the Somers Science Fair, where they present their research plans, and that's coming up on June 1st. In addition, our junior students who are working with human subjects go through the Institutional Review Board, which Dr. Szymanski helped me set up, and she and Christina Repp and Christina Gagliardi have the students present their work to ensure protection for human subjects. Senior year, our students write a paper that they use for science fair applications. So it's a full-length science paper up to 20 pages long, many of them. And they also create a 12-minute PowerPoint. There's time limits for some of the competitions, and a poster of their project. And then they participate in a variety of science fairs. Some of the highlights of those fairs is that we have had students from Hastings at all levels of at the highest level of all competitions. The Regeneron Science Talent Search, which, if you're old like me, used to be the Westinghouse competition. Intel took it over for 10 years, and now Regeneron is the title sponsor. We did have 1 finalist in 2016, and this year, for the first time, we had 2 students, Justin Baldessari, who's here tonight, and Jacob Goldman-Wetzler, who were scholars, chosen as scholars, and that's the top 300 students out of about 1,800 students who apply to that program. In addition, we do the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. We do a local competition, and again, this year we had the most students who made it to our upstate level of competition, so they're highlighted there. And we have had 2 students attend the National Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. In addition, we have the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair. This fair, we have to, sorry, I can't think of the word. We get there through the Westchester Science and Engineering Fair. And The top 20 students in the Westchester Fair is actually the largest high school science fair in the country. We had this year over 700 students competing, and the top 20 go to ISEF. And this year we have 2 students, Justin Baldessari and Miles Hamilton, who are here tonight, who are attending that fair. The 3 of us leave with the Westchester delegation this Saturday, and we go to LA for an entire week, where they compete against 1,700 students from around the world. So wish them luck as they take on the world this weekend. So that's coming up. And I did have Bryce Jacobs in 2021 actually placed 3rd in his category at ISEF when he attended. Some of the benefits of science research are real-world research experience. Students have to think critically, creatively. They're really doing graduate-level work. If you read their papers, it's unbelievable. They learn communication skills, which to me is almost even more important, learning how to send a good email, attend meetings and talk to people and present at lab meetings with their mentors and other people in labs, and just talking to professionals in the field. Some of our students, Justin attended a conference in Minneapolis this year and presented there, so they just get that experience at an early time. Another highlight, many of our students have been published in peer-reviewed journal articles. These are a few examples. Jacob Golden Wetzler has an article in preprint right now. He had to make some changes to it, and they resubmitted it, so he should be published sometime in the next month or so. And I think there's at least one other student being published this year, if not more. So that's another great thing to have on their resume as a high school student. And then moving forward, I know budgetary constraints are always a concern. However, I would love to move to a 3-year science research course. We are the only school in Westchester that is only 2 years for a variety of reasons. If we move to 3 years, the students could get SUNY credit through SUNY Albany, and it just would allow for more in-depth experiences and greater opportunities. So that is my presentation.
Thank you. It's very impressive.
Any questions before I introduce the students?
It's
May I just-
fantastic.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jody.
No, I'm just saying it's fantastic. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if there's a reason why I vaguely remember the 3-year topic coming up last year, maybe? Is it budgetary? Is that
Yes.
the main reason?
Yes.
And is it, like, what part of the budget is it?
You have to add a teacher.
It's teacher?
Personnel,
Yeah.
yeah. No, we're very serious about staying on that path and staying in that discussion with you as a board. It is an FTE issue, and I think, and Ms. Chandros, you've been a wonderful partner on this. You've been advocating and supportive and understanding, and we really appreciate that. So we're serious about trying to keep bringing this to the board and all, but as you know, personnel is the most expensive area, as it should be. We want the best we can have for our students, but that's why. And it has to be probably a full FTE, as all the ins and outs work on this. What's exciting is, and this really speaks, I think, while advocating for the 3-year, you just see the quality of work going on. That's not an excuse not to go to the 3-year, but right, you could have some organizations where there's a push for something, you're not getting it, so then the leader goes ho-hum, but that's not happening.
Right,
So you can see.
yeah,
But we're gonna stay active with you, and you can hold me to it if we can make that work.
yeah. So maybe like I'll forget if we can remember as we start the budget discussions next year. If this
Yeah.
can be-
Well, I don't think Dr.
not
Szymanski
forget.
will forget.
Number one in terms of portrait alignment and thinking about the
Yeah.
next steps.
Well, being able to offer the SUNY credit to students would be incredible for them, so, thank you.
Can you just tell me, Ms. Chandroff, since it's a class right now of 38 juniors and you're saying in the high 20s of seniors, if somehow we were able to work financial magic to offer it to the sophomore class and what exists at other comparable Westchester districts of our size, what would you anticipate the enrollment would be for sophomores if somehow we came up for the funding to do that? And are you wholly dedicated to this? Are you the only person who's actually manning all of this right now on your own?
Right now, I am the
Yeah.
only person
That's what I
managing
thought.
it.
Personing it.
So it'd be nice to.
Pardon my gendered speaking.
Yes, but Faye Barenfeld would love to come on board and work with me on this. So I know other districts who have 2 teachers and have 3 years, often they cap it at 30, 35 a year at max, because it's a big job managing, all these different independent experiments that go on, so.
And as you spoke to the fact that the sophomores, giving them that additional year also, I'm sure helps cultivate their ability to understand how to contact mentors in addition to what you do, because once I happen to have a junior who's doing science research right now, so I understand, like the excitement at the prospect of being able to extend it to sophomores. So I hope that somewhere down the line we're able to do that, because it does seem like a wonderful opportunity for our students, and it seems like it's yielded great fruit for the district and results that we can be really proud of with our students. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So is it Shira that's going to go first?
Yes.
Welcome. Is this the same kind of presentation you would give in a science fair, like when you go
So
to
I'm
them?
giving like a very quick, 3-minute synopsis.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's not the full 10 minutes, no. All right. Hi, my name is Shira Oppenheimer, and my project was on Hudson River water quality with a correlation with economics and proximity to wastewater treatment plants. So for some background information, annually more than 27 billion gallons of raw sewage are released into the Hudson River from New York City alone. And with hundreds of thousands of people relying on the Hudson River for drinking water and millions for industrial purposes and recreational activities, it's vital to maintain the health of this river. So it's been found that there is an inverse relationship between median household income and environmental exposures, meaning for a community with a higher median household income, there's often found to be lower environmental exposures for the people living there. Also, water from CSOs or combined sewer overflows have been shown to carry more bacteria than treated water being released from treatment plants. And a combined sewer overflow is when a lot of the sewer water and pollutants in a sewer exceed the level the sewer can hold. So now it's being poured into the body of water closest to it in unhealthy amounts of pollutant levels. So in my project, I wanted to look at the relationship between economic variables, including population, poverty rate, and median household income, and water quality, and also look at the significance between water quality and locations near and not near a treatment plant. So for my methods, I obtained all economic data from publicly available US government census data from the year 2022. This included population, poverty rate, median household income, and racial demographics for every town included in this project. I also obtained all water quality data by reaching out to Riverkeeper, and they provided me with a data set, including 77 locations in 41 towns along the Hudson River, which is about 180 miles of the Hudson River. And this data set included Enterococcus count, location, sample date, and rainfall for all locations involved in this project. I used scatter plot graphs to find the correlation between economic variables and water quality, and violin graphs were used for locations near and not near treatment plants on days of high and low rainfall. For my results, I found that there was significance between locations near and not near a treatment plant. So with locations closer to a treatment plant, they were more affected by higher levels of pollutants. And also there was no significance found between any economic variable and water quality, with the economic variables being population, poverty rate, and median household income. There was also no significance found between any racial demographic and water quality for any town along the Hudson River. So why is this important? First of all, this project provides a greater understanding of the health of the Hudson River, and as previously stated, it affects millions of people, so it's very important to monitor this. Also, it shows that locations closer to treatment plants do have worsened water quality. So for people who live closer to one, it's very important for them to understand that they are being more affected, and also to have stronger regulations in the future on these treatment plants. And lastly, this project takes a comprehensive comparison between different towns and their water qualities and shows that there is no significance between economic variables and water quality. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions on the topic?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry. It's very interesting. It's interesting to me how you there were so many people that you had to reach out to and coordinate with to get the information for your project. It's super interesting that you had this hypothesis in science. Is it hypothesis or is it okay? Because I know that there's difference sometimes about the relationship between economic variables and water quality, and that proved to not bear out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if that's because of. Do you have any understanding why? Is it just bad all the way up, so it doesn't matter where you live, or Is it that the towns that are along the river have such mixed economic demographics, I guess is the word, that it didn't shuffle out to be worse for one or the other?
I think it's just overall more of a positive thing of that no town is being more affected than another. There is not the greatest range of demographics, which is good, but also that there wasn't like, no town was having a worse water quality. I think is the more important part of that, not the demographic, because the water quality was pretty consistent across every town, although the demographics did differ.
Right.
So that can be just like New York State regulations and not just like per town that may have affected that.
Right.
Yeah.
Super interesting. Thank you.
I have one question. When you say water treatment facility,
Mm-hmm.
can you define that?
So it's the treatment plant that all the wastewater is being sent to. So human waste and then also pollutants, and they're all in one combined pipe that goes all to the same treatment plant.
Okay.
Yeah, they're large that have like a lot of different pipes that go towards it.
And then are they supposed to be purified?
Yeah, it's supposed to just lower the pollutants and levels low enough that it can be re-released back into the Hudson River and not cause major effects to the ecosystem. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Thank you for your research.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that me?
Clap over
My
here.
goodness gracious, I didn't know.
You have new powers.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Good evening. Miles, right?
Yes. All right, hello, my name is Miles Hamilton, and today I'll be talking about my research reconstructing late Pleistocene changes in the western equatorial Pacific thermocline and analyzing the viability of coarse fraction as a temperature proxy.
Stop you there.
Okay.
It'll maybe
I don't
make
make sense. I know.
So just a bit of background, my area of study was the Western Pacific Warm Pool, which is the largest region of warm surface water on the planet. You can see it's located just above Australia. Foraminifera are these single-celled organisms that build a shell around themselves, the same material as a seashell, and we analyze them for oxygen isotopes, more specifically, the ratio of O18 to O16, and based on those ratios we see, we can infer temperature. It's what we call a temperature proxy. So looking into the past, looking into these oxygen isotopes, we can reconstruct temperature. My gap was that it's unknown whether the biomass of foraminifera or the population of these organisms correlates with temperature. So we know the chemical properties of the fossils correlate with temperature. We just don't know if the population density or the biomass of the fossils correlate. My goals were to reconstruct the oxygen records even further. There was a pre-existing record that went from 0 to 670,000 years ago. I wanted to push this record back even further and to determine if foraminifera biomass correlates with temperature at all. My hypothesis was that we will see a correlation between these two variables. So every 20 centimeters down the sediment core that's drilled from the bottom of the ocean, a sample was placed into a tray, and quality foraminifera from 3 different species were picked. G. ruber, G. tumida, and P. obliquaculata. The names don't really matter that much. They're very long. For mass spectrometry, which is how we analyze them for oxygen, tumida and obliquaculata were crushed because they were larger. They couldn't just be processed raw in the machine. So this was done by placing them between 2 slides and crushing, and then 80 to 90 micrograms of the sample were weighed out. We analyzed them for delta O18, the oxygen isotopes, using a gas source mass spectrometer. The age model, which is what tells us how deep you go down the core, correlates to how much time is passing. That model suggests that this site has a sedimentation rate of 6.3 centimeters every 1,000 years. So every 6.3 centimeters you go down this physical core is correlating to around 1,000 years. Coarse fraction data, which is that biomass data, was provided to me by my mentor, and that data went down to 1.5 million years ago. As for my results, I ended up extending the oxygen record by around 100,000 more years, which revealed a new glacial and interglacial period. So on the top graph, you can see there's a dip in all 3 of the species, and that's a warm period like we're in now. That's what we call an interglacial. And then there's a peak in all 3 of the species, which is an ice age. Additionally, for the coarse fraction data, I found a significant correlation between the oxygen data and the coarse fraction data. So biomass is showing a correlation with the oxygen data and therefore temperature. But there's an offset. It's around 19,000 years. So once that correction is made, we see that correlation. It's a linear regression of 0.3157 and a t-statistic of 16.39. And like I said, it's a lag-lead relationship before 100,000 years. So we're seeing the biomass change before the corresponding change in oxygen isotopes, which is pretty interesting. This was contrary to my expectations, but when this correction is made, it can function as a temperature proxy. It's proving that it is reflecting the changes in temperature. As for importance, the Western Pacific warm pool is a crucial component to global climate. I'm sure many of you know of El Nino. This is where that warm water comes from. And due to climate change, the effects of El Nino will become worse and stronger, especially for the United States. So ideally, if we can better understand the trends that happened in the past in this area, we can better understand what will happen in the future. That is all. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
I have a question. Can you share who's your mentor for this project and where is he or she? Or?
Yeah, so I worked at the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, which is a Columbia campus. It's just across the Hudson. So it wasn't that far. I was kind of looking for a place that was close, and I actually met him because he was doing research in another area I was interested, like coral. That's kind of where I started the class. And I met with him, and he was like, okay, I'm probably going to be doing this. And then it turned out there was like a problem with the shipment of what they were getting. So that actually didn't end up being possible, but he showed me the foraminifera stuff. And you know, with coral, it's a shorter time scale, so it's a similar process where you're looking into the past temperatures, but it's only around 100 years. But with foraminifera, it goes back much further, and I found that really interesting, so I stuck with him.
Thank you.
I have a question. So if we look at your chart that you said, like, shows like an ice age, like the peak,
Yeah.
and the warming
Yeah,
period,
I'll go
and ice
back.
age. So is this kind of thing, could it be used to predict if there's going to be another ice age, or does this look like it's just peaking and there's not a big enough valley?
So what those ice ages we're looking at in that graph are around 770,000 years ago. So mainly when we're looking into the future, it's seeing that the foraminifera biomass is indicating when it looks like a temperature change might happen. If using current foraminifera species, could that work as a way to possibly predict temperature changes? Mainly that's what I was implying with future changes.
Cool. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I just had a question on, I guess with your mentor, is that where you got all of the samples and like your equipment? So you went to that?
Yes, I
person's
went into the lab. It was, I think it was just like a 9 to 4 p.m. thing. Just during the summer, I went every day.
Oh, wow. It's fascinating, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you very much. And next is Ainsley.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Ainsley Zamore. I did my project on the combined and isolated effects of nitrogen fertilization and warming on soil microbial activity. I did this with the help of my amazing mentor, Dr. Sarita Fry from the University of New Hampshire. So quick background, since 1970 alone, carbon dioxide emissions have increased roughly 90%, and this will lead to an eventual 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in global temperatures, something we've known. Something that goes a little less understood and a little less known is that nitrogen emissions have also increased about 200% from pre-industrial times, and because of this, nitrogen deposition is expected to double by 2050. You have forest soils, though, that serve as crucial carbon sinks, sequestering 1/3 of carbon dioxide emissions, because you have microbial communities regulating carbon storage in the soils through decomposition. Microbes, however, are extremely sensitive to environmental disturbances, such as climate-induced warming and atmospheric nitrogen deposition. And on their own, when they're studied, microbial activity tends to respond to these disturbances fairly predictably. So Frey et al. In 2014 found that warming increases decomposition, which then decreases soil carbon accumulation. And then Millell et al. In 2017 found that nitrogen suppresses decomposition, which then increases overall soil carbon accumulation. The problem with this is that these results may fluctuate over more extended periods of time, and the research also tends to only focus on one global change driver at a time, so just the nitrogen or just the warming. My goal was to reflect more real-world conditions by exploring how warming and nitrogen on their own and when combined impact two factors, so decomposition rates and soil respiration rates. My methods were taking 24 soil samples from the Harvard forest and then preparing these samples, homogenizing, sieving, taking dry weight, removing subsamples, and then making soil slurries in a little bullet blender in the lab, separating these into 2 plates to test for 2 enzymes, so NAG and peroxidase, those are my 2 enzymes. And then I used Microsoft Excel, converted all my data, so Likert data for the soil respiration, and then calculating enzymatic activity, and then analyzing everything with 2A ANOVA test and a Tukey's HST test. My results show that there was more of a positive correlation, so barring all the control plots, which is the red, you always had the heated plots on the bottom, the nitrogen plots on top, and then the combined in the middle. There were very limited significant results, but after 16 years, nitrogen did show the most increase in decomposition rates, which completely refutes the findings of Malel et al. In 2017, who again found that nitrogen suppresses decomposition, which then increases soil carbon accumulation. So nitrogen over time after 16 years actually increased carbon release. This has major implications for land managers and policymakers when they need to make more informed decisions. And then farmers and gardeners that use these nitrogen fertilizers need to understand that in the long term, nitrogen supplements can not only interrupt nutrient cycles, but also make the soils unfit to store carbon in the long run. So thank you. I'd be happy to take any questions.
I have a question. So are you advising gardeners against nitrogen fertilizer?
Yet another amazing reason to avoid the inorganic fertilizers, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's important.
Yeah, isn't nitrogen a important component of soil to make things grow?
Totally, yeah, it's a limiting factor. They need it to grow. But when you put excess amounts, it can interrupt the nutrient cycles, also contribute to runoff and eutrophication, so algal blooms in the waters and such. But then this research also suggests that perhaps there's more decomposition occurring, so there's a quicker exchange of carbon in the atmosphere as well.
It's interesting. So what they think is they're doing good for the crops. In the end, will be bad for them.
Yeah, in the more long term. So
Right.
this was after 16 years, it totally switched up.
Right.
Mhm.
So how do you get this information out to people so that they need it? Does this just get published and then you like?
Hopefully, so this was a component of a larger research project they're doing that I'm not super clear on, but hopefully these findings will be published in an article that can go towards the way of policymakers and such.
Got it. And I meant to ask the other 2 students, but I totally forgot. What do you do? Are you studying science in college?
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah. You'll see me in the lab. I'll do some sustainability,
Right.
environmental stuff.
Yeah. What do you hope to be when you grow up?
I either,
That's a
my mom,
question.
that's
Well,
a
you know.
loaded question.
Right.
My mom is a design teacher, so perhaps teaching this would be really cool, maybe at like a college level, I think is really interesting, because then I get to do my own research too. So I really was inspired by my mentor in that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations again.
Yeah.
Ainsley, why don't you take a moment, because you're central to the Bloomberg.
Oh, yes, I
Oh,
am.
that's true.
So please, and go.
Okay.
Not go, leave, respond.
So, my good friend Mia Christie and I are helping the mayor in orchestrating or managing this grant we just received from Bloomberg. So it's $50,000 that goes towards microgrants to students that want to pursue climate initiatives or projects of their own creation. Super cool. The budgets for those are $1,000 to $5,000. You can do so much. We can also grab a bunch of students that want to make pollinator gardens, so they want to do something similar, and bunch them and under one budget, and they'll have the funding to do that. It's an amazing opportunity that you get to pursue anything you want under the umbrella of sustainability and environmental science. So highly encourage students that are 15 to 24 it is, yes. So it's 15 to 24, or you can work with someone that's younger, you can work with someone that's older. It's super, super amazing. I'm biased, but I love it, so everyone else should.
There's the deadline is May 23rd, or?
Oh yeah, so we released,
I wrote it down, but.
anyone can email me. My email, you'll just put up Zamor and it'll come up. And I can send you the application link. It's also posted all around the school and on a lot of Google Classroom pages, I believe, as well. And you fill that out by May 22nd. We can also help you come up with ideas because it's so broad that it helps to have someone help you hone it in. So yeah.
So you're like the point person for this project?
Yeah, I'm helping with, alongside my friend Mia, so we're gonna help manage all the projects and help disperse the funds as well.
Oh, awesome.
Super
That's
cool
great.
stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jacob.
I'm Justin, but
Oh,
I'll
I'm
do two
sorry.
Jacobs. Jacob is not here, but He did some pretty cool stuff too. You guys getting this? Okay. Hello, I'm Justin. This is my project, Sting-Rich Ciliated Cells Protect the Fallopian Tube from Early Transformation in the Development of Ovarian Cancer. So to begin, ovarian cancer is prevalent and lethal. It has these really poor survival outcomes. And an important thing to note about it is that it actually starts in the fallopian tube. So it's not initially a cancer of the ovaries. Now, why is this important? Well, one problem we have with ovarian cancer is that we don't really understand the early drivers of disease, so we don't know what causes it, and we struggle to detect and treat early stage disease effectively. My research focuses on something called the STING pathway. All you need to know about it is it's this really important, robust immune response pathway that helps our body detect and kill potentially malignant, potentially cancerous cells. So I wanted to understand what STING is actually doing in ovarian cancer, specifically in the early stages. So I hope to show STING loss in this early disease. I also wanted to understand how STING is functioning. This is this very universally important pathway throughout the body, and so we don't totally understand what it's doing in the fallopian tube to actually act as this protective mechanism. Now, I also wanted to show that when STING is lost at early stage disease, that actually can drive cancer. So not only is it lost, but that loss is actually one of the things that we don't really understand that's causing ovarian cancer. I did a whole lot. So I took advantage of this type of cell culture called an organoid culture, which is essentially a little mock organ that can simulate the fallopian tube. So I grew my own organoids. I also wrote my own novel cell analysis tool to track the growth of these organoids. Additionally, I wrote my lab's protocol for an assay called the COMET assay, which is a DNA damage assay. I did a whole bunch of other procedures, and importantly, I had access to human fallopian tube tissue. Now, this led me to some important biological insights. So first, what you'll see on the left there, on top, that's human fallopian tube tissue, and those areas that are brown actually indicate earliest stage ovarian cancers. So these are ovarian cancers that are still localized in the fallopian tube. Now, we knew that, but I actually made a novel discovery here. So what you'll see below is that in the areas where we get these pre-malignant lesions, these ovarian cancers, the STING pathway, this immune response pathway, right, it's completely gone. So this has not been shown before, but I'm showing that at the earliest identifiable stage of disease, STING is gone. So the question then becomes, so what? What does that mean? Does that drive disease? And the answer I came to through a whole bunch of cell culture and other experimentation was that, well, actually, yes, my organoid model shows that when STING is lost, that's enough to propel ovarian cancer from the fallopian tube to these more difficult, drug-resistant, aggressive stages of ovarian cancer in the ovaries and beyond. So what's this all mean in the future? Well, for one thing, it identifies a novel player in ovarian cancer. We don't know what causes it, and again, this suggests that STING is one of those important factors. Additionally, actually, my lab, we just received a grant to pursue drug engineering, trying to engineer particles to actually target the STING pathway and raise its expression in the fallopian tube, which has implications as a robust drug target and also as a biomarker, something we can use to identify ovarian cancer earlier. So thank you, and I'll take any questions if you guys have them.
I have a question. How do you know that the STING loss is a causation and not just a correlation?
Yeah, great question. So I know I kind of skimmed over. I didn't want to inundate you guys too much. So you're right. In my human experiment, I showed just STING is lost at the earliest stages. What I then did was harvested fallopian tubes from mice with and without STING, and then grew what's called an organoid with STING and organoids without STING, and then treated them with damaging agents, so things that in the long run could cause cancer. And then I used my software program to monitor their growth over a long period of time. And so what that shows is that STING alone is what allows for malignant growth in the face of damage, in the face of potentially cancer, essentially, yeah.
You worked in a lab someplace.
I did,
then, right?
yeah.
Not in your home.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
everywhere.
Right. And where did you get the actual human fallopian tissue from, cadavers? Is that, do people donate their bodies to science? Is that how it works?
So actually, part of what makes this discovery so novel is that it's taken from women who are alive today, presumably. Essentially, we know ovarian cancer starts in the fallopian tubes, right? And we have a really hard time detecting these lesions in the fallopian tubes. So actually, these samples are from patients who happen to have their fallopian tubes removed and then happen to be harboring these earliest stage ovarian cancers that a pathologist then identified. So it's this really unique set of data because it's not late stage disease where we see a ton of malignancy and it's really hard to understand what's going on. It's the earliest stages and it's been removed. So it's like a snapshot of what's going on.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
And what are you gonna do in college? Are you gonna do science?
Yes. So I'm majoring in biochemistry, biophysics, and gender studies.
Oh,
So,
Great.
kind of a
Excellent.
Weird,
That's
yeah.
all?
That's great.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Don't get high standards.
Right.
That's great.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just want to know what the other two students are doing in college and what you hope to do after.
I am doing something. I'm going to major in bio. I'm not sure where I want to focus on yet, but right now.
I'm not going environmental, but I want to double major economics and public health.
Excellent. It's great, guys.
Yeah, wow.
Cool.
I'm sorry I missed
Yeah.
the fun.
This
Oh
is like
my
this is like
gosh.
my favorite meeting of the
That's
whole year. I love it.
exactly.
It's such a
I'm sorry
highlight.
I was late, but I still have a question for you regardless. But in your research, I know in recent times when it comes to cancer, they are doing a lot of genomic studies related to that because they've realized that this chemo radiation thing is just really treating the symptoms. Did you speak to that in any way? Because I know that's a new direction.
Yeah, so that's a really important point. One of the real appeals of this discovery is that it's more like an immunotherapy than a radiation treatment or chemotherapy cycle. And that's really important because it's less toxic. So
Correct.
essentially the STING pathway is this immune response pathway, right? And so if we can introduce an agent that raises the expression of this pathway in the body, we're actually using the body's own defenses to fight this cancer. And so the implications of that, A, as a standalone therapy, but then B, as a combination with chemo to make it slightly less toxic or be able to use lower doses, is a huge draw of these types of nanoparticle therapies, yeah.
Thank you. We are totally relying on you guys to help
Yes.
us with that.
Right?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I am excited. But thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And thank you to Melissa.
Yeah, just
I
quickly,
wanna-
Ms. Shandroff was the backbone of all of our projects, obviously. So, yeah.
I want to say a special thanks to you, Melissa, because I remember when you started this, and it's really, it's just outstanding. And I know how proud you are of your students and how hard it is to see them go every year. And I think this is such a pleasure to watch and hear and listen to. It makes me feel sad that we don't have the enterprise anymore because this would be all over it, and it would be, like I was thinking, Ainsley, that's exactly where you'd be talking about your project. But it's just very exciting, and I think to see what, I worked in a medical school for many, many, many years, and you guys are right up there with research that medical students and beyond do, and I'm serious, the way you can talk about it and what you've done, it's impressive. I do have a bias about asking kids what they're going to study, what they're going to major in college. I really feel like that's a heavy-duty pressure to put on people going to college. Like, you can go to college and just learn things and then find your way, but in these cases, I can totally get it, why you think you know where you want to go and what you want to do. And it's like you make us proud, all of you, and Ms. Shandroff, starting with you and all the way through. So thank you all. It's really
Great.
phenomenal.
It's not even about the awards, it's the process that you guys learn and the things that you learn. I started as a math major and I ended up a sociology major. So, the best
I
laid
had 4
plans,
different
Jody, best
majors.
laid
Yeah,
plans.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. I mean, I just want to add, I'm a big believer that when you have high expectations for children, it helps them reach those expectations. And this is a perfect example of some very high expectations and some, even exceeding them. So I'm super impressed, and it's just a great dynamic that we're able to have in this school. So congratulations for your own selves, but also for the sort of, the trail you're blazing for the people behind you, inspiration you give them, because I'm sure that's equal parts what they need. So congratulations to all of you. else? Any other comments or questions? No?
Let me just say, and I've been lucky enough to spend some time most directly with Justin Miles, also Ainsley, less so fellow tough soon-to-be. Sorry, I had to tuck that in there, fellow jumbo. But I've been lucky enough to be around a lot of researchers since, I'm not gonna say how long. But what's so important here is the total, yeah, he and I hung out. You know, it's the whole package. Not only is it incredibly, and I asked, you know, particularly Miles and Justin, what was your, I love to ask simple question, you know, what got you going? You know, and we might embarrass you a little bit with your family about when you first in third grade, I think it was, looked at something, and anyway, we won't go on. So, but the point is, a drive, a question, you go study it, you run into some walls, you keep studying it, and then you figure out how to present it.
Right.
In such layered ways, and in the things that some of us like me would trip over, you say, don't worry, I'll get to the message and the point. Plain English, right? But you did. Why does this matter?
Right.
You're answering why it matters as a senior in high school.
Right.
I've sat, I'm gonna say, in Chicago with fellow PhD students who can't answer why.
Right.
You've answered why. And I'm gonna go to the mentor, because and you and I chatted a little bit about other students like this in the region yesterday. The mentor matters so much, so I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
But you're the mentor extraordinaire. You're too modest to admit it.
Yeah.
But the rigor of this stuff and how you manage to keep them moving in 4, 5, 6, 20 different areas at this level of rigor, thank you.
It's incredible. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that many students, you know, like, it's,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
And how poised you all are when you're up and talking about it and answering. I know you may not feel like that, but you seriously are, and your facility with the information and.
that's why it's like life skills too. It's not just about the stuff you're learning, so.
I have to say, like, when my students contact me from college and stuff, that is the biggest thing they say, is knowing how to give a presentation, knowing how to email a professor, all that stuff is
Yep.
the
It's
thing they
important,
remember most.
Right. And every year when you're here, it just makes me so happy we have
Happy.
teachers like you at
Yeah.
Hastings.
Yes.
When is the Summers competition? Is that?
Summers is June 1st.
It's at Westep, right?
What's that?
Is it the Westchester,
The Westchester one was already.
ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is for the juniors.
Juniors, okay.
Oh, for the juniors. Oh, excellent. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Um, That was nice. All right. Moving on, we have a posted report from our superintendent. Is there anything you want to draw out of it, or?
I would just reiterate, that's at the top of this intentionally is key dates for the budget. May 21st is the vote. Would hope that everyone in listening range and reading range would make sure they vote for both the trustees as well as the budget. I'm just saying vote. You vote your conscience in all ways. You make your decision. Tomorrow night there is, thanks to the PTSA SEPTA, our annual budget forum. That's a chance for a little more interaction for those who've not had that opportunity. We really appreciate the leadership of PTSA and SEPTA putting that together. It's at Hillside. The board is welcome to be there. It's not a board meeting, but welcome to be there. Your board president will say some things at the front end. Since you now have adopted the budget, it's important the board make a statement in that meeting. I'll follow on, then Maureen Carvello will follow on, and then there are some submitted questions already, but there'll be other questions provided. It is being live streamed. I think it is being recorded, and the PTSA SEPTA will manage if questions come in via the live stream. We've set up a way to do that. Not sure how many people will actually be there in person, but that's very important. I would just flag that. The other thing is tomorrow, Facilities Committee meeting will be on May 29th, bringing to you the architects, but in the Facilities Committee tomorrow, they'll meet with them. This is the firm that's putting together the comprehensive master plan for the Farragut complex and other issues long-term. So it's the start of a pivotal set of discussions for you as a board on a set of facilities things. And Maureen's done a wonderful job guiding that to this point. So I would stop there, just emphasizing those two very, very important pieces.
I would ask, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Dr. Marquesi, so I think that we've had 2 board meetings that have coincided with the Board of Trustee meetings as well. So maybe like the day that we voted for the budget was the exact time that, I think the Village Board of Trustees, they have their meetings on the 1st and 3rd.
Correct.
Is it Monday or Tuesday? I don't know.
It's been Tuesday.
It's been, okay. So I'm just hoping that, and we've had 2 meetings already that was coincide. I'm not sure if people patronize it or not, who knows, but I would just ask that if that is checked, maybe the board president can check to make sure that some of the important,
Yeah, so
it
no, it's a
doesn't
really.
coincide, yeah, that's all.
Yeah, so it's a good question. The board votes in July at your organizational meeting on all your meetings. What we've already begun to do, based on this question, the mayor raised it with us a week ago, is Melissa D. has in her magic already mapped out the board meetings. You have to approve them at the July
Correct,
meeting,
correct,
but
correct.
has mapped those out. We've sent those to the mayor and the village manager so we can get some feedback now, so that when the board in July votes on your calendar for next year, we can already have factored in how these blend or not with the village. We do have certain requirements, believe it or not, from the state that the village does not have. We have mandated dates for when you have budget hearings, when you have
Correct.
budget votes.
Correct.
And certain things, so we have
The
to build the
BOCES
calendar.
vote is-
The BOCES vote is set, in fact, well, anyway, the BOCES vote is set, and that's less flexible than the state, actually.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. So we have to back map, if you will, out of those several
Got it.
dates. But long answer to a very clear question. We are working with the mayor so that when this board next votes on its meetings for next year, those are taken into account. When we get into agenda setting, we will talk about whether or not you meet on the 21st. I'll just, a little dramatic moment there, so make sure you stay to the end of the meeting. So, anyway.
All right.
Thank you.
And
one
as I
other thing,
recall, we
too-
did actually last year when we set the meetings for this year, we did actually look at the village calendar because it's not consistent that every week they
Right.
always have it. So we did take that into account and we saw that
Thanks.
they were on Tuesdays. So we tried to do as many meetings this year so that they wouldn't conflict. And then in combination with the fact that we're required legally to have this budget hearing 14 days, we didn't have any wiggle room as to when this meeting is held, whether or not it conflicts unfortunately with the village's calendar. But I do know that we had that discussion.
Yeah,
And then,
That's helpful.
right, we did.
That'll be helpful to bring back into the discussion
Yeah.
with the mayor and village manager on this next round.
Yeah, and
That's helpful.
if I'm not mistaken, it was actually during one of these meetings. It wasn't during our retreat. So,
Okay.
just so,
Right, meaning in July, organizational meetings when you vote on it.
yeah,
That's what I meant to
exactly.
say, if I didn't, sorry.
Yeah,
No,
because
you-
I know
you
we've
said
also
that.
tried to always take into account, and it was different in past years when we were also trying to coordinate with PTSA meetings, and then we went away from that. So that's why I remember the context of having had that conversation. So
Thank you,
there's like so
Sylvia.
many balls in the air, always.
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 Freddie, you had a
Yeah, I
question?
just wanted two things, to also draw attention on the list of upcoming things is the HASP graduation on Thursday, May 16th, and for anyone who has never been to it,
It's incredible. yeah.
I really encourage you to go. It's really a wonderful Hastings High School event. It's really very powerful and moving. It's the Hastings Alternative School Program.
Yeah.
It's an alternative high school, and it's usually just wonderful.
Yeah. We went last year, right? Yeah.
And they were before, yeah.
And the other thing is there, is the League of Women Voters forum scheduled yet?
That's going to be
On
on
Monday.
Monday, the 13th. I don't recall the time, to be honest.
This coming
I
Monday.
think it's 7 p.m.
7, yeah.
Thank you.
There's a link in,
It's May 13th.
May
It's
3rd.
in-
Good luck to everyone.
Yeah.
It'd just be nice if
So the
they
board knows.
advertised it.
Freedom.
it's, there's a link
Those
in
races
Bill's
that-
if you're
It
looking
would-
for it.
No, I'm
And
thinking
I
of
think it
people who
was,
aren't
yeah.
involved with the school who want to know.
Yes.
I
Yes,
think it
yes.
was.
Usually
you're
the way
right.
that they promote it is that the village will also send a blast. At least when,
Yeah.
when we were with the PTSA, what they would do is they would blast it so that the village would then blast it broadly. And then we had it on the electric signage outside this building so that those people who aren't necessarily intimately aware of what's going on or on the school distribution list still get that. So I don't know if the village is on that,
Yeah.
but usually they send out a blast, including this.
So,
Because I've only heard it from SEPTA and from the Hastings newsletter blast.
Right.
Those are
Yeah.
the two places, but I haven't seen anything in the village, but.
yeah.
And is it
so-
all on Zoom again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I
But
think-
there's a,
Forever.
but there's an in-person option too. You can come, it says.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm
That-
going
that's
in
what the-
person.
That's what that you can come in person or that you can
They
do the
didn't tell
Zoom.
us that.
So you
You
guys
asked
are
about
going to
that.
be in
Yeah.
person?
That's what it
I
said.
don't think so. She didn't tell us to go anywhere. She just gave
No,
us,
it's-
she gave us
it's
a
virtual,
Zoom link
isn't it?
for,
Oh,
like,
I'll tell
big.
That's for the PTSA SEPTA, the budget forum.
Oh, the budget
okay,
forum.
okay,
That's
that
what
makes
forum.
sense.
Okay.
For the media
Yeah.
candidates, it's a Zoom.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Zoom.
But can we put it on the website, on the district website, so that when community members look?
On the BOE page?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be.
there- Because there is the list of dates, for
everything.
And they take questions from the community, so the
Mhm.
community is supposed to be able to have a link to, when you sign
Yeah.
up to do the Zoom, it says,
Mhm.
do you have any questions for the candidate? So it's important for them to get the questions.
Yeah, and also I know that in the past, the village would do things on behalf of the school, but it's technically, I go all about policy and legislation stuff, but
It's not up to us to do it with the village, it's really up to the League of Women Voters
To-
reach
correct.
out and make sure it gets
um,
out however it can.
yeah, but my point,
Oh.
anytime I say the word P, it's
Yeah,
just
I know.
pa, pa, pa. Okay. But anyway, what I was getting at was that I think, Jody, you weren't here last week or whatever. Just last week we met.
Yes, I
but
wasn't, yeah.
Yeah, but I know certain community members actually reached out to me. They also reached out to Teresa during our communication engagement thing. We brought it up that people can subscribe even if you don't have kids in the school, because they were like, we don't know what is happening in the schools. We don't know what is happening in the schools, and they are thinking that the village can sort of be the people to draw what is happening in the schools to them, because they don't have kids here, and the village cannot necessarily do certain things like that. They are not even put things on their website because of the separation of because of some legal things that I don't know the details to be able to be informed enough to say it, but I know Maureen knows more than I do. So with that said, the website, I know they visibly, I told you P. I'm not going to talk in this
I didn't hear a
mic.
P. I don't know.
I know, this mic is giving me the P problems. But anyway, I know that it's on the website. So just for those listening that know people that are thinking they can't be engaged, if you don't have kids in the school, you can choose what you want to receive from the schools. It's right on the website to subscribe. It's right there. So click on it, subscribe, and they can get all the information and the superintendent's letters and everything. So I think that this should go far and wide enough so that residents know that they can know what is happening in the schools, even if they don't have kids here.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to administrative reports. Report from Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Szymanski. I see it's posted.
It is
Something-
posted. There are 3 things that are referenced and centered. One is the work of the Social Studies Department through the curriculum review cycle inquiry. The second is work around the Portrait of a Hastings Learner behavioral charter, and that's listed at the bottom. And I just wanted to speak a little bit to the cultural competence post around exploring equity, the title of the newly revised course that's still being developed. But there was a question raised at one of the Board of Education meetings around the wheel and why certain areas were being explored. So I just wanted to add a little bit more flavor by talking about the goals of each of those, and then the links to the Learning for Justice topics, just to be able to have that centered, so if there are any further questions, I can respond to that. And everything is still in process, so there has been a full inquiry, and that work has been led by Dr. Janice Mateo Toledo in partnership with the people who have been teaching the course. So we work together to really take a look at the current Courageous Conversations course against these areas, and realized that while certain things were centered, other things were not present in the curriculum. And so to be able to make it a bit more broad, and recommendations came from the teaching team, and we are in the process now of really designing.
That's awesome.
Will we get to see what it ends up being? And I know that sometimes in the past there was like outside courses that were brought in to be part of it. Is that the plan for this time too?
Yeah, so we are already tapping into our Facing History resource.
Yeah, that's what it was, Facing
Which
History,
is really
yeah.
great.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
great.
and thank you to HEF for that grant,
Yeah.
actually. So much of that has been used for professional learning. But we do have, as part of the grant process that sits alongside the professional learning, we get access to some thought partner consultation work. So we are currently engaged in, just looking at the Learning for Justice lessons, looking at facing history lessons, looking at what we currently have, really broadening the arc of what it is that we're doing, and developing the scope and sequence right now. So there are many things that are happening in terms of learning outcomes, thinking about the social justice standards from K all the way through 12, looking at individualized lessons, and then to your question, so facing history is coming in, and they're also sitting with us so that we can bounce ideas off of them based on what teachers are creating, meaning where are they pulling from, you know, from different organizations that are really immersed in this work.
And is the thought to like break it, there's just, I mean, to cover all of this in like a quarter for, you know, it's the thought to break up like these 3 will be covered in 6th grade, these 3 will be covered in 7th grade, these 3 will be covered in 8th grade, is that the?
Yes. And
otherwise
some
you'll just go broad and not deep.
Exactly, and some of them are iterative. So a lighter touch in certain grade levels, but a heavier touch in others. So early middle, you would want more on the bullying. Sexuality, which is like when you think about sex education in the 8th grade curriculum, would be the later middle school, right? So we're also thinking about social studies content and making some of those interdisciplinary connections when we're thinking about which of these topics to amplify where, and that, again, that there is an arc, and yes, so some of them are being taught front and center in certain grades.
Right, because some of the, I'm sure you cover much of this in just regular classroom stuff, like immigration maybe, or rights,
That's
or
right.
religion, yeah.
I'm very happy with all the work that is going into things, and I'm not going to just let you bring the silent voices on the table. So
Did
I'll
I
do
bring
it.
any silent voices?
Yeah, I'll do it because you've mentioned some of it before in the past. I'll do it, I'm leaving, so I'll just bring those silent voices so that it's not. But on my way here, I met a couple on that as well. And I am confident, I mean, like I said last week, because Dr. Samansky is in charge on curriculum, I keep sort of pushing her on everything that comes to me on her. And I know people have had things, you've raised concerns with courageous conversations and all those things. And I think that, you know, I mean, a name can be any name, but what is happening is important. And I want to say that this is really a good thing. And I know that other curricula like social studies or science or biology, all those things, are very structured with specific topical things that you just do and you check the box, so to speak, right? Although there is that whole flexibility within it. A conversation is a conversation and can take any form. And most of the time, like facing history and all those different things that is connected to it, is connected in such a way that you are dealing with reactive and proactive measures within that whole, like balancing the whole social health that allows vulnerability to happen, conversations to bring vulnerability without judgment, right? And again, if that, so again, that space, like Dr. Samansky said, you are bringing all these consultants, right? Sorry, I know I'm not speaking into the mic. I don't want the P to just pee it all. So anyway, I don't want that sound too. But like Dr. Samansky, I keep saying Dr. Market, like Dr. Samansky said, right? You're bringing all these experts into it, and also the lived experiences of the students themselves, for them to be vulnerable in what they are saying, to create that healthy space that these conversations can happen. And when there's vulnerability, I know that some of the concern is that it seems like the topics are being hidden and stuff like that, but some level of vulnerability requires that confidentiality within it, right? You know, and again, with the expert consultations that are helping with all of it, as Dr. Samansky brings them in, it helps with that process to be done well. And so I think it's one of the, it's one of the signatures of Hastings, you know, and I think we should be very proud of something like this, because it's not, you know, there can be some ugliness and misunderstanding in there, but you can see the maturity of our students. And I think it's in each of the grades, I would suggest we open up for such kind of courageous conversations. I think that Hillside should have something like that. Middle school and then high school should have something like that. That way, it actually helps with the whole confusion that has happened with indoctrination versus knowledge acquisition, right? Which is still in the town as much as it's not coming here. I know it's still there because I still get it. And I was sharing with, and I would just say this and end it. I was sharing with someone just today before coming here that, you know, I'm a person of faith. I don't hide it and I'll never hide it. But I remember I was in high school, I was taking religious studies. And then I was very jumpy about it. And my colleagues told me, the professor is an atheist. And I'm like, what? How can an atheist teach religious studies? And so in the Bible knowledge class, I sat there, we call it BK, Bible knowledge class. I sat in there looking at this guy like, what the heck do you know? You know, and it was the most amazing class ever. I mean, he was able to bring the societal hegemony of the religious age, like things that I did not hear in my Sunday school class that I would say, hallelujah, hallelujah, and jump in it. I mean, in my Sunday school class, it was more indoctrination because all my emotions are what I'm like, yes, yes, oh, yes, and, you know. But in that class, it was very knowledge-based. And so sometimes we hear a title, and we are assuming that because in a Sunday school setting, it's indoctrination, therefore, in an academic setting, it will also be indoctrination. And it's really two separate things. You get what I mean? So I think that all these, I'm glad all these things are happening. That's all I want to share, because if it's done well, it's incredible, and I'm glad the work is being done towards it. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
And I just want to recognize and thank our facilitator, Dr. Mateo Toledo, and our design team on this. And I've been with them through the work. And I will say, in general, any content, any topic, anything you're doing, change is hard because you have to let something go to let something in. Because you just can't keep adding and adding. There's a finite amount of space and time, and there are finite, you know, that you have to have priorities on things. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate the whole way through the engagement of the faculty, the spirit with which they're being curious about the work, and the fact that everyone in the room has really identified opportunity, which is a very positive, optimistic way to engage and work together. So I would like to publicly recognize and thank them for that.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to a report from Maureen Carbella, business official.
Bill mentioned it earlier, but just again, for the entire board, we are having a facilities meeting tomorrow. And within that meeting is our first opportunity. We have some community partners that are going to be, when you start looking at a bond, we typically like to bring in people like from different viewpoints in the community to really just help us as we start through the process. So I wasn't sure if the whole board knew that was kind of occurring tomorrow, but then also there will be a presentation from our architects done at that meeting, but that presentation will be given to the whole board, right, Bill, May 29th?
Yeah, May 29th.
So that'll be a very comprehensive, I know the facilities committee tomorrow will see it, but then the whole board will have the opportunity to see that, plus other work that's already been done prior to that, just as we begin in a more formal way of looking at what that project may look like as we enter into the next school year.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Maureen. Moving on to our student report. Who's up first? Okay.
There we go. Alrighty. So first of all, just a huge thank you to Ms. Chandroff and all of the science research seniors who presented today. it was really awesome to get to see some projects. I'm not in class with 2 of the 4 presenters, so it was really cool to get to see some of their research live and in person. We have a shorter report tonight because it's only been a week since we last saw you guys.
You noticed too, right?
Right, there's still news.
The concert.
Yes, it's right up here. So this past Thursday was our high school spring concert. The jazz band opened, which was unique. Usually the jazz band closes, so it was very exciting. They were followed by the Madrigals, which is the select voice group, the band, Symphonia, which is the advanced orchestra, chorus, and finally orchestra. The chorus performed a piece composed by junior Jasper Zimmerman. And at the end of the night, there was this really incredible performance of the song Chicago by Sufjan Stevens. This had members of the orchestra, band, and chorus all together, which is something that I have not experienced, so it was a really beautiful way to end the night. The concert then closed with the senior ceremony, which honored our departing seniors with roses and some very heartfelt speeches.
Kai, if you don't mind, I just wanted to say there was a moment at the end of that final piece that was so special and it was so spontaneous, where students just wrapped their arms around each other and brought each other in and were just so present for each other. So I just wanted to recognize that it was such a subtle, unplanned thing, but it was really special, and it spoke to Hastings, and it spoke to all of the performers and the camaraderie and the relationships that were cultivated over many years. So I just wanted to add that because as someone in the audience watching that, it was truly unique and it was very powerful.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you.
I would also add that both Kai and Ileana were excellent, and Kai did a vocal with the jazz band, so they're not mentioning that. And my compliments to Mr. Day and Mr. Risk, because I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of people on stage for that last number. It was crazy, and everyone knew what they were supposed to do, and it was really, really beautiful. So well done.
Would you believe me if I said that that last number took us maybe a week to put together?
Wow.
We only rehearsed one time before.
Wow, that's incredible. You know, have we ever in the past filmed this so that members of the community could see? Because the auditorium gets so busy. Didn't we used to do things for seniors? Didn't we used to have, like, it would just be nice if yeah. Do we still do the senior concert?
We did it.
Yeah, right. It would just be nice if we could like live stream this so people in the community could see.
There is a YouTube video that was done by a family that Mr. Day has that he sent that we're going to share.
Yeah.
So this final Chicago performance, we do have that from at least one vantage point.
Yeah, right.
But in terms of the district filming it, that's something we could look at. The issue is going to be the sound quality. Unless you're micing it correctly, you don't. Then you. It's a real issue because you don't want to put something out that doesn't sound
good.
like it sounded in the room.
But maybe you could get WHOH to film something like this.
When
Like,
they do the theater, they have a separate young person come in.
Yeah,
Right.
we can look into that.
Yeah.
So.
some of them, I agree with you, should be made, should be streamed or.
I mean, I think we saw with so many people coming in to talk about the music program passionately that were graduates, that were parents of, they didn't even have kids anymore. I mean, clearly people love and value the music program, so I'd love to show it off to the rest of the community. I get the problems, but that might be an interesting idea with WHOH or something, because you guys do so much work.
Get a HEF grant that can support. I know we put a lot on. I mean, everyone goes to have like
I know
Christmas, like Santa.
Right.
Santa,
Anyway,
gimme.
something to consider for next year. We have a whole year to work it out.
Because I think that with sound, I mean, I know you have to repair and maintain, but whatever is needed for a sound quality to happen, and so that the P doesn't mess it up when they are singing. I mean, I think if maybe HEF is willing to put the upfront support, and then the school can now maintain it, because everything then boils down to budget. You know what I mean? So.
Thank you.
All right, so continuing on, in some sports news, we've got something very exciting, which is that junior Kieran McGrath won LoHud Baseball Player of the Week. So, there it is. So congrats to him.
I knew you would get this, so I only just brought, I'm just your prop.
I know, a week ago, I talked about how many nominations and winners we have from LoHud, and once again, speaks to like how strong our sports teams are becoming. I want to comment on the concert. It was pretty emotional for the seniors. A lot of us have been doing choir since 3rd grade. And I want to say that the last piece we sang, Mr. Risk commented on this at the concert, we sang by Coldplay because us seniors, the first song we ever sang in 5th grade chorus with Mr. Risk was a different Clay song. So it's a full circle moment.
Wow.
Okay, some other sports updates. The varsity softball team won their senior game against Irvington this past weekend. And then some other wins. So this past week, the varsity baseball team won all 3 of their games against Irvington, Bronxville, and Albertus Magnus. And after games, junior pitcher Jackson Akery and senior pitcher Billy Murnigan, they both recorded their 100th career strikeouts. So congrats
Awesome.
to them.
Yeah.
Big week. As Dr. McCursey said, APs start this week. So many of the students are in and out of the building. Some of the classes seem pretty empty. I have 4 APs Wednesday through Friday. So 4 APs every day. So busy season. I want to comment on Senior Assassin, which is still going on.
Oh my
We're
goodness.
in our 6th week. I'll show here. This is the safety item.
Oh,
It's
my
full
goodness.
floaty. It has to be around the waist. Somehow I'm still
Are you still in?
Yeah. It's down to, I think it's around the final 15. It started on 100.
Wait, does somebody try to steal that from you?
No. If I'm not wearing it, then they can shoot me with a water
Kill it,
gun and get me out.
Oh my
This
God.
week, all the assassin targets swapped, so now no one really knows who has them. And new rules, because we're trying to like get this over with. If you don't get your person by Saturday at 11:59 p.m., then you are out. So now everyone's really like, trying to get their person out. So we'll have
Totally,
like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's intense, and you see people chasing each other outside.
What's the prize for the winner besides
it's-
like I did this?
It's a free prom ticket.
Oh, nice.
It's just something fun, sweet.
For them and a date or just the?
Just them.
Well,
and bragging rights.
right,
Yeah,
bragging rights.
serious
Bragging rights is
That's
the
great.
biggest
6
part
weeks,
of it.
I mean.
Yeah.
Goodness.
You will be remembered in future Hastings lore. For
Yeah.
being
Yes.
Right.
I know last year's game technically is still going because it never ended because they sort of gave
It's like
up
the Korean
on it.
War.
So funny.
So we're really trying to get this over with. And then
We're rooting for you, Eliana.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be biased,
Hang in
but
there.
you know, right.
I'll try. And then the next time that Kai and I will see you, the seniors will already be in their internships because technically there's only like 8 days
May
left
12th,
for the
yeah.
seniors. So kind of
What's your
crazy.
internship?
I'm
May
working
12th.
on a musical in Riverdale, The Drowsy Chaperone.
Hmm.
So I'll be performing in it, working backstage, doing a lot of stuff. This is me plugging that show.
Yeah, it's great.
We have 6 performances the last week of May. So come see it if you
Yeah.
can.
It's a great show. I saw that on Broadway in 2004.
Yeah.
Sutton Foster, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great show.
Yeah,
classic.
It's really fun.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
So if are you done?
Yeah, yes.
So, no, I'm going to add on. I was welcoming 3 dignitaries at the high school entrance today as they were checking with security, and 2 significant students came running by wearing those. So I was trying to explain to our dignitary guests, and I was, and the name of the game is Assassin. In this day and age in schools, it's a little tricky for the superintendent to say they're playing Assassin, so that's protecting them, I think.
Yeah.
One of the students, I do know where they're going next year, so when out of earshot, I said, that person's not only that and this and that, but our dignitaries were interested.
Who are your
Um,
what dignitaries?
You can't.
Doesn't
You
matter.
can't.
I will say, though, that when I will go to this, because and our Alteris partners were coming to district on another day, when two of our students said, I'm gonna run back to the car to get my, and I was like, oh my goodness. You know, so we had to explain what's going on, so
It's
we
a
are
game,
trying
yeah.
to make the game work. But today was a funny moment, and they couldn't fit through the door wearing that, which added to the entire comedy there with our dignitaries. I'm like, this is Hastings High. It's wonderful.
We have fun. People people get evil in this game.
Yeah.
Very-
Great.
I've had multiple people try to trick me into other situations that I've, you know, I've avoided them.
That is so much
Hang
fun.
on.
Right.
So half of the reports show that we are in the midst of all kinds of incredible intellectual work, also having fun.
Also, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Always,
true.
always
The
have
key to success is intellect and fun.
Yeah.
You should have
Goes
just told the
together.
dignitaries that we have a pool, didn't you know? And just like, you know. Right, exactly.
On the roof.
I was with my 2 middle school children, and there were seniors walking on the sidewalk with the tubes, and my 6th grader said, what is going on? And like, why do I keep seeing people with tubes on?
It leads to some very dirty looks, I will
Right.
say. Especially the week we had pacifiers.
Oh,
That
that's
was
right.
the worst.
So funny.
The people drive by in cars and like slow down, and it's like, I'm sorry.
Pacifiers.
Last year, I saw someone chained to a garbage pail, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, it's spring.
Spring in Hastings.
That's great, though.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you both. Wonderful to hear, for sure. Moving on to public comment. Is anybody from the public who would like to comment? No? Okay. Moving on to business items. Are there any questions or comments regarding our business items 1 through 6?
I have a couple questions. All of the price, the salaries or the pay per day, the per diem or the per hour, is it anything different from last year, or is it all the same?
No, some of them did go up. Let me just look which ones went up. Okay, F. So the substitute rates we had adjusted mid-year this year, so we didn't readjust
Right,
those because
that's
we
why I
just
remember we
put
had a
those
whole
up.
conversation about
But that
subs.
was in terms of the teacher substitutes. But then our substitute substitute aid went up. It was $19. It went to $20 an hour.
Right.
The substitute summer custodial $20, and then we ended up tiering some of our custodial workers that have either been with us for multiple years. Some of them start in high school, so many of them are very good and they can use skilled machines now. So we wanted to create tiers there, so we did increase that a bit. And the school monitor is currently paid at $19 an hour, and we're recommending $20 an hour. And the reason, because some of these people will start working in the summer, like July 1, so we wanted to do it now, so
Yeah.
that it would not have, so that we could guarantee that they would in fact get that rate, because some of them, some of the more experience, especially for the summer help. So being we were doing that, I'm like, well, let's just put the rest on as well. And we're in the process of also looking for staffing for next year too. We start that process in June.
Okay. And then I have a question about, I just have 2 more questions.
Sure.
Then the question about the custodial day off. I feel
Yes.
like we did this before, but we're not
so we
doing the
did that
Tuesday,
last
we're
year,
just
so
doing Friday?
We're just doing Friday because their contract's a bit different, and they do work snow days, unlike the
Yeah,
the
no,
rest
I
of
know.
the group. So this is similar to what we've done, where instead of giving 2, it's taking the 2 half days and creating a full day off for them. So that's that Friday. They would be off Friday.
Got it. Okay. I remember we did this last
Yeah.
year, so we just have to do a
Well,
contract
each we
amendment
just have
every
to
year.
just. I mean,
Because this says it expires in
Well, it does,
2026.
because it's-
But it's really for this year.
No. It refers to the contract that
Oh,
they're
got it.
currently
I understand.
under, and you have to refer to the
Yeah.
contract that's already in place and say that this is an amendment to that
So
contract.
that got it.
So you
okay.
have to reference it.
Makes
yeah.
sense. I remember doing it last year.
Mhm.
That's great. And then the last thing is astronomy club. Awesome. So fun. I'm so glad that Mr. Hills wants to do it. It's great, and these kids want to be part of it. So that's fun.
Sure. Any other questions or comments regarding business items 1 through 6? No? Is there a motion to approve business items 1 through 6?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
If it was an astrology club, it would be even cooler.
Tarot.
There is an astrology club.
There is?
There is. It was started 2 years ago, maybe last year, by a couple of freshmen and sophomores. It's pretty small, but I do know that it exists. And they've had tarot readings.
That's so
etc.
fun.
It's-
Oh my God, I love it.
I've seen posters.
That's
They're
so great.
Pretty cool.
Thanks, thank you. Moving on to appointments. Are there any questions regarding our appointments?
No, but I'm thrilled that Nathan Bennett wants to become a student observer, because I know that we have problems finding like teachers who want to do world languages. So that's terrific. Great support. Maybe he'll want to stay.
What's a student observer?
They're
Well,
kids
so-
that are in college that are.
Yeah,
Oh.
so
Yeah.
in this
Got
case,
it, okay.
yeah, Nathan Bennett's a junior at NYU, and he's
Yeah.
thinking seriously about education. And
Got it.
So
Oh,
we're
I
doing
get
what we
it.
can to,
Okay.
you know, help cultivate his interest.
I love it.
Is there a motion to approve our appointments?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to minutes. This would be just from last week. On April 30th, are there any questions or comments regarding our minutes from April 30th? No? Is there a motion to approve our minutes from April 30th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Second public comment. Nope, no public. Moving on to agenda review. One of the key questions, we had previously scheduled a meeting. Oh, you want to?
No, go ahead.
We had previously scheduled a meeting for the 21st. We were going to have it on the day of the budget vote. And I think there's a consensus that there's not much of a reason, because we have one right now and then one right after, to have that meeting on the 21st. So are we going to remove it from the
Yeah,
schedule?
our recommendation would be that you not meet that evening, we'd cancel that meeting, but since
Correct.
it's a change to a schedule you've adopted,
We have to.
we don't need you to vote, but just have you agree or not, or discuss it. But we are, as administration, recommending, you don't have reason to meet on the 21st. You're meeting again the very next week on the 29th. Many of us will be here that evening, given the votes that are underway. But
What is on that agenda as tentative anyway?
It's blank, actually.
It's blank,
no,
so,
Okay.
they're really, I mean, it would be just regular updates that a week later you can get.
okay.
We very rarely have a meeting on the day of the budget vote.
Yeah,
if
I don't remember.
correctly.
We
Yeah.
never do.
We never
Yeah,
do.
Right, so,
So
It makes
I'm
sense
not
to
sure
not-
how we had it there.
yeah.
Now, you're not going to be here, right? You're-
Yeah, and I'm not going to be here, so
Yeah.
I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I think,
Oh, what do you mean you're not?
I'm traveling for work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think it's a safe
so
safe
if you
call.
agree, we leapt ahead and assumed you'd agree and put no meeting in there, but,
You
we
know
can-
us so well, Bill.
Yeah,
I
it
love
doesn't-
you all,
it
but
makes
I
sense.
would rather pass the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we'll have
When is our last meeting? Like
In
last,
June.
before the new
June
blood
25th.
comes in?
June
June
25th.
25th,
Yeah.
okay.
Right, because we have, I'm just looking at my calendar.
I mean,
Yeah.
new and old,
Yeah,
or.
so just
yeah.
quick, I won't belabor a point, but you have 3 very full meetings after that. So the 29th, you've got a number of things going on there, security executive session that's important because, and there is aspects of the security plan that per state law, you only see in executive session. The larger plan, some of which is, all that would be public, is voted on that night. There's a public hearing on the code of conduct, et cetera, et cetera. It's all in front of you. You are on the 20th, also very importantly, going to hear from the architects about the master plan. So actually, let me update. So we did, based on already the weight, if you will, of the meeting on the 29th, we moved 2 items to the 11th and the 25th. So we moved the SPED Advisory Committee report to the 11th of June, and we moved HEF, which was very willing to do that, to the 25th. That's when they will come to the meeting and let you as a board know about the grants they've approved for the coming year. So we're just trying to spread the meetings, the weight of the meetings out a little bit, meaning the number of agenda items.
So it's going to be heavy on those 2 days?
The 29th will be a very busy meeting, but we've lightened a bit by moving a few things out. The 11th will be a very important celebratory meeting for both tenure and retirement. We'll start at 5 o'clock. That meeting's at Hillside. We will have a reception at 5 for both tenure and retirement. And then we'll go into the recognitions for the both of those. There is a public hearing on emergency plans, which we have to put right there. I think it'll be similar tonight. Very few comments, if any, on the emergency plans, but it's all on the agenda plan.
Okay. Dr. Makesi, I am beginning to remember, I think I had traveled, but there was a meeting that we had, is it state clerks or something, that they were opening the mailing, wasn't it?
When
Which day?
after the election,
After the
we see
election.
the absentee ballots.
Correct.
So the ratification is the
Correct,
29th.
that's what I
That's
was-
an item on the 28th, ratification of the school budget vote. Melissa, do you want to speak to this?
Ye-
The contested.
Because it was so close, yeah.
So we had to hold a special meeting.
Correct.
And do that, but that's not like customary, something that we do every year.
Okay,
Thank
so I
you.
just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, Melissa D has all the answers.
And so so with, if there is something like that, then we have to like, I'm just saying that, why don't we create a tentative for?
It almost never happens,
It
so
almost, so it's, okay,
I've
just.
never seen that happen.
that was,
No?
Got it, okay,
yeah, we'll,
okay,
if
got
we
it.
need it, we'll build it.
Got it, okay.
And they will come.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hope-
You know
I
the
hope,
reference.
I
Very
hope
well
not.
attended.
I hope not, but
And
I.
Kevin Costner will show up.
Yeah, Kevin
So I know
Costner.
I'm really getting it, okay?
I think you're
Okay.
getting sports reference.
Okay, thanks, got
All
it.
right, so no meeting on the 21st. Okay, moving on to Board of Education comments.
So is this Friday night, the HEF fundraiser?
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's
Speakeasy.
this Friday on the Speakeasy theme from 7 to 11 at the Westchester Manor. And if you want more information about it, the website is the hastingseducationfoundation.org. And I really think that, as board members, we really want to promote as much of the public to participate in attending that, because how many times when we adopt business items, is it nice for us to be able to say, thank you so much, HEF, for offsetting the expense of that? Because, in these, limited times of what we can do with our budgets, we really rely on our community groups to help us, make wonderful offerings for our students, whether it's, things, extra professional development, things that they can offer money for, or instruments. It's in all across all the disciplines. So this Friday night, be there. You're gonna hopefully win some money at the casino night aspect of it, but you're really going to be helping our school. So that's this Friday night, 7 to 11 p.m., Westchester Manor, and dress up like a flapper or a corresponding Gatsby character, because that's the theme.
Yeah.
Is there a secret knock? There
Yeah.
should
Yeah, exactly, right, exactly. But that's
Yeah, I
this
really
Friday
want
night.
to emphasize what Sylvia is saying with HEF. HEF has been incredible. If you think about it, their existence is for the schools. Like they cannot use the money for anything outside of students' work and activity. So they only exist because of the schools, and any other work has to be partnered with the schools. So it's really a school thing, and I think that most of what the PTSA is great. I'm not saying anything about it in that regard, but I feel like any fundraiser by HEF is not something that they use as a HEF thing, right? There's no HEF thing. Everything about HEF is money for the school. Unlike other groups, even if they are connected to the schools, they can use their fundraisers for their own thing, but not HEF. Every money comes here. So I want to echo what Sylvia said.
Thank you. Thank you for Sylvia for raising that up. It's definitely true, and especially because also not even things that are ongoing, they just help us pilot so many things. So it's a pretty profound bang for the buck. So yeah, thank you.
And it's a big labor of love for those people. I've never participated in HEF, but I know that they always put together a real shebang.
Yeah, this
So
was special.
it's also nice to have something to do on a Friday evening, so
Agree.
go for the schools. And it's local, exactly.
I also want to,
go ahead.
go. No, sorry.
Okay. I think it's important that we revisit the topic of literacy that a community member brought forward a couple weeks ago about PD for balanced literacy, as opposed to the science of reading, and why we're choosing to continue professional development for balanced literacy. Governor Hochul, put forth $10 million to train teachers on the science of reading, and I think we need to bring our reasoning behind continuing balanced literacy, and I think the community deserves to hear that reasoning, and
let me jump in. I think I'm going to find a polite way to say this. There's a lot of misinformation on that particular point here in Hastings.
Okay.
Science of reading is not a particular approach. It's a whole set of research brought together to provide state-of-the-art literacy instruction. That's what we're doing in Hastings. We have a presentation that Amy Kazis, Melissa Szymanski put together in the fall for families and parents. The vast majority of those who've participated in that agreed with it, understood. And so, as with any issue, there's still a number of people raising questions about it, which I think is part of what you're raising. We had not brought that full presentation to the board. I think we can share that with you. Actually, no, we've shared it with you in attachments.
Yeah.
It's a very robust PowerPoint. We've shared that, which explains everything where we are, plus talks about our outcomes. We are outpacing in outcomes any district around us. And so you don't want to just stop there, but that's important.
Yeah.
So I think you see how busy the agenda is for the next several meetings. I might recommend that in the fall meeting out of the blocks, we come to that and meld that with what is the professional learning plan. Because to go to that question, which did come up, another board member asked, maybe Doreen had asked that question. Over the summer, Melissa Szymanski plans out the professional learning with the principals and others. And so I think we can, for the board at that first meeting, I think there's one in August, we can at that meeting say to the board, here's the professional learning plan. And I think it's then we can, in some form, either Melissa or Amy. Melissa herself is a literacy expert. So you have Amy as a literacy expert. You have an assistant super as a literacy expert. And believe me, you know how much I'm with supers now because you see my updates. They're all wanting to know what Hastings is doing, literally, because we are doing, I'm going to say, we're doing the science of reading because that's not a thing.
It's not one thing.
It is not a thing. It's a collection of research drawn for best practice. So I
Right,
think
but balanced literacy is a thing.
well, it is and it isn't. I think it's a phrasing to look at multiple approaches to how one, to make sure you're doing all the things that are important for phonemic awareness, phonics, all the rest. All the boxes you want to check for research-based, high-quality literacy instruction, we're doing that. So I think we owe to the board to bring that back so you can fully see that, have the discussion as you need to, other board members can, because that, it is, I think, we're at a substantive advantage here. And I think communication, often we have to repeat. I think we probably should repeat it a bit more so we can help clarify this, if that's helpful.
I think so.
So, because, I went on at some length here somewhat to show how much I care about this and that I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to add.
No, I can just echo all of that, and I will say, I think in general, sometimes people have perceptions of things based on vocabulary that's being used about it. So whether it's balanced, or whether it's science, or whether they're being able to stand behind a program that the data shows it's really working for students. So I have colleagues regionally that have leaned over to me in meetings and said, what are you doing with your literacy program? Because we all need to figure out what you're doing at the elementary level, because you are, we're top number one for one set of scores. We're in the top 3 for our second set of scores. There's direct phonics instruction that's happening. We're meeting kids where they are, and programmatically, we can go back through it, but we are hitting so many different things in such a highly rigorous way, and it is really coming out of what is the peer-reviewed research saying on this, what are the trends on the research saying on this, but most importantly, being very clear that we are teaching children and not a program. And so we want to really get good with looking at our data, which we are, making sure our interventions are solid, which they are, making sure our program is hitting all of the different areas it needs to be hitting, so that in a very scientific way and also in a way that balances all these areas that kids must be learning in, that is happening, and it is happening very strongly at our elementary school. And so I just notice sometimes in the conversation, whether someone's calling it science of reading or someone's calling it balanced literacy, regardless, what's happening is there is a research-based approach to the teaching of literacy, and there is a data-based approach to adjusting that for individual children and for smaller groups of children. And then finally, the thing that's very, very important to add is that our student readers and our educators are very joyful, and that is really important too. So when you couple all of that together, the whole point of even being, you know, a reader, a writer, is you're in the world as a literate human who can create ideas and communicate and engage with all sorts of different material in a way that has deep passion. And so I'm actually quite proud of our program, and I would definitely think that you know, an opportunity to showcase some of that even more robustly is always welcome. And to Bill's earlier point, that was done at the elementary level. It wasn't done through a public presentation, you know, at large. And the teachers at Hillside on the literacy committee created that, showcased that, turnkeyed that even to the middle school teachers, just so we're working on that really coherent approach.
Yeah, and I'll Melissa and I, Dee and I will reshare. I'm looking at the presentation right now. We'll reshare this with the board, but I mean, slide 7. It's all of those elements you would care about. It's worth, I'm sorry we've been on it so much. It's a great question. And in my mind, it's fundamental, right? We need to worry about teaching and learning. Literacy is fundamental. The governor's taken a stand on this. It's frustrated many superintendents because it was a big grab. Connecticut has done the same thing. Connecticut's put in a program saying regardless of your outcomes, here are the 4 or 5 programs you have to use. So it's a real backwards move by a number of elected officials. So fortunately, you know, we'll see where the governor of New York lands. Massachusetts, on a number of things, outperforms nearly every state in the country. Sorry, New York. Sorry, Connecticut. They, on the PISA, they outperform many nations. When I'm up visiting my dad, the Boston Globe is obsessed with Wellesley. You know, all the, you name the fancy districts, they're not teaching reading well. So it's a good thing for us to understand, get ahead of, and help Hastings learn that on this, we're in a very good place and we're constantly learning. Let me say one other thing. If a particular consultant has been involved in a certain area, I don't have a problem with that if they learn. I'm gonna use a medical research example. Medical research, just witness our students here, it moves, it changes.
Yeah.
Reading changes. I'm not bothered by the science of reading phrase because it lets ground what we're doing in education in good scientific method and understand. So it has progressed. The particular consultant question has moved and shifted. If someone's been here in their understanding and they've gotten to here, I'd like to reward that.
Correct.
And not penalize them for having been part of something that we have since learned. And I'm gonna go right back to medical research, right? How many doctors 6, 7, 8 years later are doing something different?
Correct.
Based on what they've learned. That's, so, but it's we went on for about 15 minutes on one question, but it's a really important question.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
well,
you.
I think in summary, we'll come back at the August meeting if, when we're doing agenda setting, you all agree to do the professional learning piece as well as the literacy piece.
Yeah.
I think
I
I was just going to say one thing is maybe we could put that on the website. I just went quickly to like HOH schools, and there's really nothing in here about like what we're doing. Maybe if that presentation was done, maybe instead of making people search for things like from a past BOE meeting, if it's about that, I don't know if there's any problem with it, but maybe we could put it in put it in the like under academics, elementary instruction.
That's a
Maybe
good
we could just
idea.
put that presentation there, and in the future, any presentations that we have, that could be helpful.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
My board comment, I'm going to actually connect to what you said about the science of reading, only because you've said it. And I think I'll switch it over and say this. I had planned to say what you said later on. But I remember that the group of parents had reached out to me as an individual. We talked through it because we know the whole thing about bouncing literacy in Colombia, which whatever happened. And then later on, they reached to myself and Alex, and we met with some of the parents about it. So then we asked them to follow the steps, right? And which they did. This presentation came up, and I looked at it and I'm like, perfect, because, you know, a lot of things is really about reaching each individual student. However, this is the feedback that I got. And I'm sorry I've just been talking about DEI so much because it's cutting close home. But whatever the other parents shared, Teresa, I don't know whether some of them shared that with you, but what they literally told me when I pointed them to that presentation, because it was shared with us, that this is incredible. They said, what you're seeing is not what is happening. I'm not sure whether that's what you heard. They said, after the presentation in Hillside, it would just be awkward that anyone should say anything else other than this is amazing. But they know what is happening to their children is not matching what was presented. And for me, that was difficult to hear because I don't know how that can, why there should be a disconnect. And I'm saying this publicly, it's being recorded because that's what I heard. And it wasn't just, it was a collective sentiment that was presented. There were examples that was given about someone tested something on the child, you know, and like some are using. So again, things fall through the cracks. But with the reason why I wasn't sure what to do with that whole information, and I fault myself for not pursuing it more than I did, but I would, you know, I think Dr. Makesi said something that is very profound, which I think that I'm hoping that we hear it again, what he said about the fact that nothing is really cut in stone. Everything is a continuous improvement in that spectrum of science research, you know, and that it's about the individual student, you know, for a state to say that use this just creates that boundary of usage, takes away even the real freedom of learning, right? Learning is learning. It's always a continuous improvement thing. But I think that when Dr. Makesi said miscommunication, I think that one of the things that I feel is being really done well from us as a board is communicating. Dr. Makesi does clear communication a whole lot, you know, with this presentation thing going on. But if I may, this one, I'm going to read something, but this time, Jody's right. It will look like I'm actually lecturing. I love her. I love her so much. But like a big sister. But it's, I promise you, it's just a statement. And it's my own ammunition that I want to share. I know I've shared it with Doreen, but it's my the P again. Okay, it's my personal ammunition that I use a lot. That's why someone told me, you're always saying sorry when you do stuff. And I don't even realize it, like when I go wrong. But I'm going to read it and share it, so it will be short. But it's my own ammunition that I use, and I think it's helpful because it allows for the deliberation that is needed for continuous improvement. So I'm going to read it so that's succinct. So I strive to do things right. The emphasis is the verb do. I strive to do things right. Striving to do things right sets you free from wrongdoing, as you will seek the right path of doing right. So if I'm trying to do right and I realize I'm on the wrong path of doing right, I'm looking for the right path to jump into. So I'm like, oh, sorry, okay, this was the right path, I thought it wrong. So, but then if you are striving to be right, if you are striving to be, the emphasis is be, not do, but if you are rather striving to be right, what it's going to do is going to hold you captive to wrong being. Because when you are trying to be right, you will only seek the path of staying right. So, I mean, it's a crazy lecture thing, but but I feel like with the community, you know, Hastings, everybody is, I've not met anybody who's not smart, and they are very involved, right? And so if we all sit at the table and we think that we are all trying to do right, I know Amy Cases is trying to do right, Dr. Samansky is trying to do right, the parents want to do right by their children, right? So if we all think of the doing part, then there is no, I think it's easier for us to try to come to a consensus that is helpful for all of us instead of trying to be right. And I think I like what Dr. Makesi said, that it's really a learning thing, and also Dr. Samansky said that it has to do with the child. I know my son likes phonics because he can't, and I do that with him, but I know a very close friend whose son cannot touch phonics. It's like, I would you rather use those cards that they memorize with pictures and all those things. So I think that the conversation should be opened up more in terms of the practicality of what is happening to the children of the parents that feel like their kids are not getting what they need, and therefore they are looking for tutoring outside. So I think that would be helpful.
Thank you. Any other board comments?
On a lighter note, I want to remind people to think about if you want to march in the Memorial Day Parade, and I found this picture. I was going through things this weekend. I don't even know what year this was from. I was trying to figure out.
Jody,
two other people who were on the.
Jody, let's go together. How about that?
I don't know if I'm
But
gonna
that's
be
pretty
here.
cool, though.
I actually had dinner with both of them last night.
Yeah.
Can you pass it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll pass it. I'll pass
There's a
it around.
banner
I'll
and
pass it
everything?
around.
What?
Wow, our own banner.
It's this
Now,
one.
I mean-
It's this.
I think
it's
they
this
use
banner.
this one,
Is
right?
this banner also? I was like, woo!
Okay, let's go, team. That's
I
my
always
last
go away
lap.
Memorial Day weekend to visit my mom. I could never do it. Oh my God, that's so
Who
funny.
is around?
I should be here.
I'm
Okay,
gonna check.
let's do it.
I
Let's
love
just
it.
do it.
Good
Sure.
times.
I think I'll
Are
be
you going to
around.
be around?
I'm not sure yet. I'm
Okay.
checking to see.
You gotta represent, Teresa.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. Good
So
times.
keeping it very light, let me just, and because it's board comment, and let me just stress that it's very important to me that as families raise questions with you, you very much feel that you can redirect them to the relative building and also to me. And if there are any concerns with that, let me know. Because we're too small a district not to, for whatever the topic, the work, there may be a presentation, other engagement, whatever that may be, and if families feel, well, it's still not connecting, we will engage. And the team knows that, and I'm saying that in a public meeting, that I expect that we'll engage, and expect that we'll have conversations as long as we can. We may end up at still not a match, but at least that we've had those discussions. So you as an individual board member should not feel you have to explain for us, as opposed to, I hear your concern, please be in touch with whichever principal, whichever assistant principal. And then from there, there's a path up through Melissa Samansky, me, as we need to try and have families feel, okay, we may not have fully gotten where we want, but we feel heard. And so I just want you as a board to understand that's our deep commitment. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Alex, I
Lorraine?
had one kind of random thing, but just maybe for a future. There was an IT audit that had some dates that I just wanted to double check that we did what we needed to do.
Yeah,
from that.
within that, we're hitting like the technology, like we were needed to create the technology. We've been reviewing our technology policies. So we are, we have met, because there's some that are still kind of in the future, like a little bit in the works, but most of them, I mean, not most, anything that we were to meet at this time frame have been met.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks, Maureen. Both Maureen's. Is there a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.